My name is Max Maven. It's my pleasure to introduce this evening's historical talk. The interesting thing about history is we tend to think of it as what's behind us, what's in the past. But of course, history is a continuum because it also involves what's coming, what's in the future. I attended my first FISM 40 years ago. And if I had looked around the room 40 years ago and thought about what I was looking at, it would have looked quite similar to this group. Nice people, interested people. But it occurs to me that 40 years from now, there will be a FISM. And if you look around that room in 40 years, it won't look like this. For one thing, pretty much everybody here will be dead, so it'll look different just on that basis. But also, if you look around the room 40 years from now at a FISM, it will have a different look. There'll be a lot more melanin and a lot less testosterone. Because as is true at any point and every point in history, we're living through changes. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to introduce our speaker for this evening. She'll tell you a little bit about herself just to get things started, but I have had the pleasure of working with Connie in a number of parts of the world, and I'm very pleased to introduce her now. The topic, most appropriately, is women in magic. And if you've been paying any attention to the internet during the past year, she has been very much a vital presence on this topic, and she's going to expand upon that. So would you please welcome Connie Boyd.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. I never thought I would ever be at a FISM, so really, thank you. Also, I know that there are an awful lot of events here at FISM, so thank you so much for choosing to be here and not at any of the other events. I very much appreciate that. Now, life has a crazy way of throwing you some curveballs. And I have discovered and evolved over time. So I started as a classical ballerina, and then I became an aerialist, and I had a catastrophic fall, which led me to become a magician. And then I became a producer, a mentor, a director, and thanks to a global pandemic, I am a YouTuber. Documenting magical women. Now, a lot of you may not know very much about me, so we've put together a really short sort of clip that maybe will tell you a little bit about my career.
She has been called the beauty of magic and the foremost female magician of our time. No, it's not Doug Henning. Ladies and gentlemen, the award winner for Best Cabaret Magic, Connie Boyd.
It's a career highlight to be here.
Let's meet a lady who is an expert at her craft.
A woman who shattered the glass ceiling of magic. See for yourselves.
In the world of magic, a female performer. She has been a headliner in Vegas. She then went on to become a consultant, a mentor, a director, and now she is producing things globally. Have you figured it out? Well, you better pay attention. It is the one and only Connie Boyd.
Okay, so that's a little bit about me. Thank you. So what I have discovered in the last 2 years is that there's a running theme. Whoops, I hope someone didn't fall. There's a running theme with the magical women I'm going to include in this talk. And what I've noticed is that they are resilient, and against all odds, they don't give up, and they survive. So Tina Leonard, there I am with Max. Tina Leonard provided a very important quote at the very beginning of the Magical Women project. And she said, "Life begins at the end of your comfort zone." And that resonated with me because I was way out of my comfort zone with Magical Women. And I hope that this talk today will help you and encourage you to move out of your comfort zones. It's really important. So let's start with some fun facts. How many of you really would like to perform in Las Vegas? One of you. Great. Maybe some of you have already performed in Las Vegas. Well, do you know who was the first female magician to perform in Las Vegas? Was it a male or was it a female? Was it Jay Marshall? Obviously a male. Jack Cordell? A male. Celeste Evans? Female. Gloria Day? Female. Does anybody have an idea who was the very first? So everyone thinks Celeste Evans? Okay, Celeste Evans is incorrect. Gloria Day, an 18-year-old magician, was the very first magician to perform in Las Vegas. And that was in 1941. And traditionally, we don't really think about women being firsts in magic. But thanks to historians Lance Rich and Anna Rose Einerson, we have discovered these facts about Gloria. Gloria performed at the El Rancho Hotel and Casino in 1941 in May, and she performed in the Roundup Room. The Las Vegas Review-Journal called her the hit of the show, so she was pretty good. Gloria was a child prodigy. Her father was Leo Metzner, and he taught her magic. This is the piece de resistance. Gloria is turning 100 years young next month in Las Vegas on August 25th. So now it even gets better. Gloria performed in a soundie in 1941, and it was called Concertina Man, and it's very rare footage. This is the first time it will ever be seen, and I'm so thrilled to share it with you. Would you like to see it? Yeah? Okay. Laugh about that lady with the blonde hair. She doesn't seem very pleased. So it's thanks to Lance Rich that we were able to see that wonderful footage. And it is, again, very rare. So we have established that Gloria Day was the very first magician to perform in Las Vegas. Now, who was the first magician to perform on television in the United States? Does anybody have any idea? Well, most people think it's Kudabex, the man with the X-ray eyes, but you are correct. The first person to perform on television was a woman, and it was at the 1939 World's Fair, and her name was Jerry Larson. You were absolutely correct. And Jerry Larson performed in a pilot. And so that was the very first. They were testing a new medium, and that medium was television. And so history was made with Jerry Larson as the first magician on television. Now, she went on this next year in 1940, and she performed on The Magic Lady. and this was on ABC. Now, clearly, Jerry was a professional magician, but she was also the mother of Milt and Bill Larson, and she is the grandmother of Erica Larson. Now, I think Erica might be here tonight. Erica, are you here? Is Erica here? There you are. Yay, stand up, take a bow. And congratulations on your new position as president of the Magic Castle Enterprises. That is fantastic. And continuing your grandmother's legacy. It's really amazing. So when I started this Magical Women project, I honestly thought, I know magic. I've been a magician for over 30 years. And I've been documenting women in magic for over 2.5 years. Honestly, I was not prepared for the scope of information of how women have influenced magic. It is just crazy how much content there is. Now, there's a part of magic that has been largely omitted from magic's historical timeline, and you've probably figured out what that is, and that is women. Thank you, women in magic. Now, the good news, no, actually, the great news is that is changing, and we now have a lot more information about women in magic thanks to magic historians and access to the internet, which has been very, very helpful. Now, this dates back, if you think about it, we've been having or experiencing women in magic since the 1400 BC with Phenomenon and the oracles of Delphi. So it really is an established historical fact. So let's go on to another fun fact, and this fun fact pertains to FISM. Who was the magician who inspired and motivated the 3-time world champion Fred Capps? Does anybody have any idea? I'll give you a hint. She's the lady with the fairy fingers. Susie Wandas, you are correct. You're going to get a gold star. So it was Susie Wandas, and it's thanks to historian Kobe Van Herwegen that we have this fantastic information. Now, Kobe has written a book on Susie Wandas. For those of you, hopefully you've read it, but if you haven't read it and you really want to be inspired, I would suggest that you read his wonderful book. It's a great book. So now, I have another clip that I'd like you to watch very, very closely because it's interesting. It's from the MGM, and I believe it's 1935. It's a short.
So put a few into circulation. Stop stalling, begin falling the way I fell for you. Hang on to me, hang on to me. I'd like to hang you on my family tree. Oh, we gotta get together. Better start in now. You're over there, and I'm over here.
Okay, so how many of you think that is Susie Wandas? Yes? You think it's Susie Wandas? Yes? No? Yes? Yes? Okay. It is not Susie Wandas. It is a young magician, and her name is Marion Stephanie. And it's thanks to Kobe and his colleagues that we have discovered this fact. Now, there was a lot of confusion about this clip. Everyone thought it was Susie because the magician was blonde and she had a really great magic skill set of manipulation. But it was not Susie Wandas. Now, why was that? It was because there was very, very, very little information and little footage of female magicians during the time. So she was blonde and she looked like Susie, so everyone assumed it was Susie. Now there's a second point. Oh, I'll tell you a little bit about Marion. Marion was also called a female Houdini, and she did needle swallowing. But that's about all the information we have on her after that performance. So there's not really very much documentation on Marion Stephanie. And those are the two of them side by side, so it gives you an idea why there was a confusion. Now, there was a magician who was a Jewish German magician, and she actually performed magic with cigarettes. Now, I think this is another interesting point, because in 2022, it would be almost impossible to be booked with cigarette manipulation, because most theaters don't allow anything with fire, and actually smoking is taboo in many places. So, but Miss Blanche, she performed cigarette manipulation. And she chose the stage name Miss Blanche because there was a Dutch cigarette brand and it was called Miss Blanche. So that's why she actually used that stage name, which I think is really great. Now, in 1938, the Magic Circle in Germany expelled all of the Jewish members. So they were all expelled. Miss Blanche eventually fled Germany, and she ended up in Holland, where she was captured, and eventually she ended up in Auschwitz. It was discovered that she could perform magic, and against her will, but she performed magic to SS officers, SS physicians, and German dignitaries while she was there. And it is believed that she was awarded table scraps for her performances, and that most likely saved her life and saved her from execution. Now, this is a really sad and very dramatic story, but I think all of us in this room can relate to the resilience and the force to overcome impossible odds to survive, and she did that magically. Now, of course, everybody knows Harry Houdini, but did you know that in Harry Houdini's time, there were 70 plus female escape artists during his time, during his career. And we know this to be true from a list that Gary Hunt, another historian, has compiled. And also what's interesting, these are not all A++ magicians. These are magicians from all genres of show business, but there are more than 70 on that list. Now, there was one magician that Harry Houdini was very nervous about, and her name was Minerva. Minerva was really good at handcuff escapes, and she was also a publicity favorite. She would leap from bridges and escape from handcuffs. Here's an example. In 1908, she leapt from the Blue Bridge into the Potomac River. Now, the chief of police had actually secured her into the handcuffs, but she escaped and she exited, and she actually had great success with this. What I find so interesting is, imagine it is 1908, so long time ago. Now, she's exiting the water, and she's completely dripping wet, and her clothes are clinging scantily to her body. Now, can you imagine the sensation that caused? So I'm going to have to read this one because this is a little tricky. This is the illusion that Houdini was so frightened about. It was an airtight, underwater, oak barrel, shackled and handcuffed escape that was the biggest threat to Houdini, because it was very similar to his milk can escape. But Minerva had even more bondage at the time. So who was the first person to escape from shackles and bondage in a water-filled container. I don't think we'll ever know the actual facts. Nobody really knows. But what we do know is that Houdini and Minerva performed at the same time in the United Kingdom. And Minerva's ex-husband, Guy Jarrett, has documented that Houdini placed acid into Minerva's oak barrel. Now, we, again, don't know if that's true or not. Nobody has actual facts. What we do know is true is that Houdini was so threatened by Minerva that he actually cast another female magician. And her name was, just fast forward, Oceana. She was German and she was a high diver. And she performed in the exact same towns, in the exact same routines as Minerva at the same time. So he really, truly tried to discredit her and diminish her success. Now, thankfully, Oceana didn't last. And in 1909, I believe, yes, Minerva returned back to the United States and she continued to perform. Now, it's really ironic, I think, that a contemporary female escape artist runs the Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Now, she runs a museum and she's a Houdini historian. She has performed herself straitjacket escapes from dangerous heights on television, and she also has performed several times the bullet catch in her mouth. Do you know who it is? That is correct. It is Dorothy. It is none other than Dorothy Dietrich. Now, wouldn't it have been wonderful if these stories and accomplishments had been documented? Because so many of us would have learned so much quicker. So that leads me to my next point. Everybody in this room, it is so very, very, very important to document your magic and your magic journey. All of you, not male and female, everybody. That leads me to Diana Zimmerman. Now, Diana Zimmerman is remarkable. She is a magician, an inventor, a CEO executive, and an author. She says, legends are made from authors, not deeds. And I think that's really important and that we can all live from that fact, or that statement. It's something to think about. Now, there's another side of magic that is a little bit behind the scenes, but also needs to be noted. Lupe Nielsen is a wonderful, skilled close-up magician. She's also a magic historian, and she runs Nielsen Magic. She fabricates and runs the entire business. Those of you that I follow her on Facebook, I don't know if any of you do, but she is just remarkable. I would call her a Wonder Woman. There is another Wonder Woman who is responsible for the bookings of more magicians on television than anybody else. Do you know who that is? Yes, it is. Gay Blackstone.
She produced more television magic for magicians, and that was the World Magic Awards and the Masters of Illusion and tons of other shows, escape shows, close-up shows. And it was now very exciting to see that she was a huge force in magic. The fact that she's still creating an entity for young magicians to showcase in is unbelievable. I refer to her as being the Queen of Magic because she really touches a lot of lives and holds great court.
I think most people know, but if you don't know, Gay began her magic career as an assistant and partner to Harry Blackstone Jr. Like Adelaide Herman before her, she started her career, her professional artistic career, as a dancer. And she used her magic foundation in widowhood to become even more successful. Now, speaking about Adelaide Herman, how many of you have read her book, the book about her? Anybody? Nobody has read this book? Oh, yes, excellent. It's a great book. Adelaide Herman would have slipped into oblivion had Margaret Steele not picked up her pen and passionately researched, documented, and searched for buried treasure. In this case, it was Adelaide's memoirs, 65 years of magic. So, it's really important. Now, one of the things that Adelaide herself said is that she is and was the most important female magician of all time. And personally, I would agree with that. She, like Houdini, became very, very knowledgeable in the use of publicity. And in her memoirs, she actually creates her own legacy. She states she is the first professional female magician. She is the first woman to perform the bullet catch. And she is the first magician to perform magic to choreographed music. Now that got me thinking. Let's fast forward, because this touches a nerve with me. Okay, let's fast forward to the late 1980s, 1990s, and there is a magician, assistant, choreographer, director, who was responsible for magic choreographed to popular music tunes, and that was Joni Spina. Yeah, we miss her. And Joni was just remarkable, and any of you that saw David's work, his origami, his interlude, that's all Joni Spina's work. Now here's a fun fact. Who was the first magician that Joni Spina worked with other than David Copperfield? Anybody know? No, that would have been me. And that would have been in 1992. And I was performing in the Folies Bergère at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas. And Joni came to see my show, and I had just put in a new routine, and I called it Floating and Flying. And she came backstage and she asked me, could she please restage and redirect the number? And I said, you can do anything you want. It was Joni Spina. And so she changed the costuming, and she changed the music, and she changed the entire feel of the piece, and it became a signature piece for me, as you can see. And it was thanks to Joni, and that began a lifetime of friendship and collaboration. And along with her and Don Wayne, my second mentor, they really shaped my magic career, my magic vision, and my magic education. So how did I become a female magician? What inspired me? Well, in 1987, I was working in a juggling act, and I was at the Riviera Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas in a show called Splash. And the headliner was a magician and puppeteer, and his name was Barclay Shaw. Now, I don't know if any of you had the privilege to see Barclay Shaw, but he performed the most beautiful levitation that I have probably seen to this day. The woman was inside a glass casket. She was not dancing, she was quivering under his control. And it was close to the audience, and it was wow. If you saw it, you would never forget it. It was wonderful. And Barclay saw me watching him every night. And he said, you know, if you like magic that much, you should be a magician. And he actually made one of my first magic pieces of equipment. Now, why would the headliner of the Riviera Hotel, Splash, do that for me? Because, good thing you asked. He hit the person who inspired Barclay Shaw was a woman. And he fell in love because of a female magician, and her name was Cleopatra. And to quote Barclay Shaw, she was the best magician that he had ever seen. So that's why he was encouraging me. Now, imagine, there's not a lot of documentation about Cleopatra, unfortunately. But I'm doing my magic research because we can all learn from the history of magic. And I'm reading the Illustrated History of Magic. And lo and behold, on page 315, there's a story about Cleopatra and how she became a magician. And to quote Milburn Christopher, she was the very best illusionist that he had ever seen. So sadly, there's not a lot of information about Cleopatra. I would love to learn more. But it goes back to what I talked about earlier, and that is the importance of documenting your magic. Now we'll go back to Adelaide. So, how many of you remember the first time that you walked onto stage and you saw 50 people looking at you, or 100 people, or 1,000 people looking at you? And do you remember that sort of fear factor? Imagine Adelaide's dilemma. She had unexpectedly lost her husband. He had died. She had a very short performance partnership with his nephew that had failed. She was facing financial ruin, and she was on the brink of bankruptcy. She could sell the show. There were people that wanted the show. Or she could forge forward in the Victorian era and become a solo female magician. Now, what would you do? Would you play it safe? Thankfully, Adelaide did not play it safe. She forged forward, and she quite quickly became a very notable celebrity in the Victorian era. Her performances were silent, they were mesmerizing, they were critically acclaimed, and in addition to grand illusion, she also performed manipulation acts such as the billiard ball routine that's in that photo there. Now, I think it's really important to note that she wasn't just a popular, famous magician. She was also a popular, famous show in Europe and in the United States. So she was a superstar of her time. It's also really important to note that she surpassed her husband's fame, star power, and career longevity, performing into her 70s as a professional magician. Now imagine this, without Margaret Steele picking up her pen, we wouldn't have this wonderful information about Adelaide Herman. To break it up a little bit, I think it's kind of an easy piece of trivia, but we'll see. Who is the Society of American Magicians honorary member number 2? Was it Harry Blackstone Sr., Harry Keller, Minerva, or Adelaide Herman? Any guesses? Nobody? It was Adelaide. Yeah, it was Adelaide Herman. And so she's the honorary number 2. Do you know who number 1 was? Harry Keller, yeah. And what's really interesting is if you look at that photograph, it's actually written, Adelaide has signed it, and she signed it to Harry Keller, so that's kind of significant, I think. So, all of this royalty, we have the Queen of Magic, and we have the Queen of Handcuffs, who was Minerva, and I thought, was there really a Queen of Magic, a true queen? Did that exist? Well, we have Queen Marie Henriette of the Belgians, and it was in the 1880s. And she was very, very serious and very passionate about her magic. She was so serious that she had an in-residence teacher, and that was Carl Herman. So Alexander Herman's older brother was her in-residence teacher. And she was so passionate that she had a stage built in the palace. And she entertained the royal court and anybody that was visiting, all the dignitaries, all the other royalty. So she literally had a captive audience. And there she is, Queen Marie Henriette of the Belgians. So now we go forward to some more magic royalty. I'm sure most of you know Thelma, the Queen of Coins. But did you know that Thelma could palm 30 coins in her tiny little hands, and that she had a performance career of over 30 years? Plus, Thelma was the inspiration for another magician, another female magician, and she inspired that magician to become an expert in manipulation, and that magician was Susie Wandas. Now then we have Vonetta, who is the queen of mystery, and she was an early illusionist and quick change artist. What's kind of fun is in a rare role reversal, her husband actually performed in the illusions. He was the assistant and she was the magician. Now, how many of you have read Charles Green III's book, Ionia, Magician Princess? Yeah? I hope you've all bought it. If you haven't bought it, Charles is here and he is signing the book here at FISM, so don't miss that opportunity. It is a fabulous, fabulous book. Now, Ionia was known as the goddess of mystery, and she also was called the enchantress. Her posters are probably some of the most valuable and the most coveted of the golden age of magic. But here's an interesting fun fact. It wasn't until 2006 when Stan Allen in Magic magazine published Charles' findings from Ionia's niece that Clementine de Vere was actually Ionia's birth name. Now, the de Veres had a long history and legacy in the magic community, but Clementine, Ionia, only performed for 3 years, from 1910 to 1913. In 1919, she married, and she married royalty, and she took the name Princess Clementine. So she was a true princess until she passed. Now, another fact that I think is super important is Ionia's mom was Julia Ferret, and she's also known as Miss Edith, and most of you probably know her as Okita. So I believe that was the very first mother-daughter legacy where the mother was a professional female magician and the daughter was a professional female magician. So that's a wonderful fact, I think. How many of you know of the king of the colored conjurers, J. Hartford Armstrong? Just going to take a drink. I've been doing a bit of research. He had a daughter, and his daughter's name was Ellen Armstrong. And in 1939, she inherited her dad's show. She continued the family tradition. She had been performing on stage since she was a child, and she was an incredible magician in her own right. And she continued that family tradition, performing in America up and down the eastern seaboard. And she was incredibly brave. She risked hanging and she risked her life bringing magic to Black communities. There's, in the next set of posters, there's a little, I guess you would say, saying at the bottom, and I really like it, and I think it kind of sums her up. It says, "If laughing hurts you, stay at home." So I think I like her sentiment. All right, so here is a magic first. Who was the first magician nominated for an Emmy for a television series in 1952? Was it Mark Wilson, Celeste Evans, Del O'Dell, or Ricciardi? Any answers, anybody? Del O'Dell, you're correct. It was Del O'Dell. Well done. So it was Del O'Dell, and Del O'Dell was nominated, but she did not win. Do you know who won the Emmy that year? It was Betty White. So, yeah, it's not a bad person to lose to. So Del won for an ABC series that was called The Del O'Dell Show, but she was known when she was billed as the Queen of Magic. Now, Del was was known also because she had very snappy pattern and when she spoke, and she performed magic with funny rhymes, so she was quite novel in her performances. She also mentored magicians, and one of the magicians she mentored was Chuck Jones. So, here's a princess. Princess Tenko is from Japan, and she is a pop Japanese celebrity. She started as a pop music singer, and she evolved into magic and became a very, very credible magician, escapologist, and illusionist. Now, Princess Tenko in 1989 she won the Academy of Magical Arts Magician of the Year. And with that award, she became the second Asian magician of Asian heritage to win that award, and the first Asian female to win that award. So she was pretty hot stuff. But she also performed in the Rockettes in New York City, and she had her very own cartoon series, and that cartoon series was called Tenko and the Guardians of Magic. And you can find that on YouTube. You can find it on we have an excerpt of one of them on our YouTube channel. So it's pretty cool. Plus, it gets even better, she had her own Mattel doll line. So yeah, I would say Princess Tenko is pretty important. How many of you have seen Faye Presto perform live? Yay, Faye! She is absolutely, without a doubt, in my opinion, and I think you will all agree, the queen of close-up. Now, Faye not only is the queen of close-up, she performs for royalty regularly, and she has performed numerous times for Queen Elizabeth, and she performed numerous times for Diana, the former Princess of Wales. Now, what strikes me about Faye is her ingenuity and to create opportunities where they never existed before. And so she's resilient, and against the odds, she has survived. And her form of table hopping magic is copied by magicians today, and she would be very happy that they copy her form of table magic. She's just brilliant, and I have a huge soft spot for Faye Presto. Here's a fun fact. Who did Faye Presto mentor? Was it Billy Kidd? Was it Laura London? Was it Josephine Lee? Or was it Nicola Arcane? Yes, that was an easy one. It is indeed Laura London. Now, Laura is a fabulous, skilled card magician, but she is also the Magic Circle's librarian, and she's an expert on Telma. So she's an expert historian on Telma. Okay, did you know this? I didn't know this. There was a magician in the White House from 1901 to 1909. It was Theodore Roosevelt's daughter, Alice, and she was a first daughter, and she performed manipulation magic and close-up magic. And she was known to be the most eccentric first daughter. I don't know if that relates to the magic or not. Anna de Guzman is 24 years old, and they are calling her the Queen of Cardistry. She is a social media celebrity and wonderful with card manipulation and cardistry. She's just, I think we're going to be seeing an awful lot of Anna de Guzman in the future. Huge talent. So the question I'm asked most often is, why aren't there more women in magic? Well, the answer, as I know it to be true, is that there are, and there always have been, important women in magic. So, Tina Leonard provided a second fantastic quote when she participated in our Magical Women channel. And she said, "Remember why you started." And that has resonated with me so many times when I've been a little bit lost, including creating this lecture today. So I think that's something that we can all take home with us. And anytime that you're a little bit lost, just remember why you started, whether it was the love of what you do or for whatever your base purpose was. But it's a great thing to think about and to pull back on. Now, Ekaterina was our very first Magical Woman guest star. ECAT was one of the very first YouTube influencers and creators. She is a magician, mom, and marketing executive. Any of you that have seen her YouTube tutorials and her cardistry skills or her product reviews know how wonderful she is. She's just a wealth of knowledge and talent. Now, ECAT is a perfect example of magic being your foundation, but not being your ceiling. And she's here at FISM and she's lecturing. So please don't miss the opportunity to see Ekaterina if you have that opportunity. She's brilliant. Yes, ECAT. Carissa Hendricks, who could that be? Carissa has been so important. She was one of the very, very first magical women that I interviewed. She's been incredibly gracious. She is super smart, super talented, and she is one of the most generous people I know as far as giving her information and sharing. And Carissa was very, very important in helping me construct and make some decisions about this talk. So thank you very much, Carissa. Really, thank you. Now, she and Kayla Drescher did something remarkable in 2018. They created a podcast, and that podcast is called Shazam. And it changed, I think it changed the magic community as far as communication and opening new avenues of discussion and talking about inclusivity and diversity. So I just think that it's remarkable what they've accomplished and what they continue to accomplish. It's pretty cool.
I never imagined that the 5 magicians I started with on my list would lead to 10, which led to 20, which has now led to over 250 video uploads in just over 2 years, and 250,000 views on YouTube. I invite you to watch and listen to all our guests' content. Every story and experience is unique and inspiring. They have struggled as you all have, and they've pushed beyond and hurdled obstacles and defied the odds.
So one of the things that I'm probably most proud of with this Magical Women project is the free special edition, Female Magicians Through the Centuries. And it is in part thanks to publisher and editor Paul Romani, who published a free gift to you. So you can upload the QR code and you can learn about magical women through Sébastien Bazou, and he's from Artfake, France, and he wrote this wonderful essay about women in magic, and he contributed the essay, and he also contributed his beautiful photo collection. So it's quite remarkable, and if you want to learn a little bit more about the history of women in magic, that might be a very good place, and it's free to start. Now, I absolutely love the cover. I mean, I absolutely adore it. It is a mosaic of female magicians, past and present, to create the overall headshot image of British illusionist Josephine Lee. So for FISM, we have created 300 copies of a limited edition print of the poster. It's down in the dealer's room. For FISM, it will be $10, and afterwards, any of the posters we don't sell will be $20 on our website. For the first 5 people who purchased the poster and managed to get 5, I repeat 5 signatures, of the magical women participating in FISM, you will receive a free 1-year subscription of the e-publication of Vanish. Now, here is a list of the fantastic magicians who have agreed to sign the poster. Who knows? It might be a collector's item. You might need to buy more than one. So we're going to move on to a little bit of trivia with who invented that. Who invented the dancing handkerchief? Okay, we all know it, right? Was it Harry Blackstone Sr., Adelaide Herman, Anna Eva Faye, or Howard Thurston? Does anybody have any idea who invented it? You think it was Adelaide Herman? You think it was Anna Eva? You are correct. It is Anna Eva Faye. She invented the dancing handkerchief, and it inspired Harry Blackstone Sr.'s popular version. Now, in Anna Eva Faye's version, she was performing seances, so her handkerchief was possessed by spirits, so it danced about because it was possessed. So there was a reason for it. As most good magic, there's a reason for it. All right. Who invented the VIP prediction? Now, the VIP prediction is a box, and inside the box is a clear tube, and inside the clear tube is a prediction. I think many of you have performed it. You may have it, so you know what it is. And I'll give you another hint. It was first made by Johnny Gahn. Was it Dick Zimmerman, Chuck Jones, Diana Zimmerman, or Misty Lee? That's a tougher one, isn't it? See? Diana Zimmerman. You are correct. It is Diana Zimmerman. And yes, you are winning. I'm going to read some of the inventions that Diana has created because it's quite remarkable. So in addition to the VIP prediction, Diana Zimmerman is responsible for inventing illusions such as the floating mirror ball as performed by David Copperfield, the vertical stretching illusion, the gramophone illusion as performed by Lance Burton, the spooky spoon, and the 3D without glasses quadrivision effect. So, phew, she's a pretty talented woman. All right, oh, and there she is. Who invented that? Who invented the high heel card stab? I know it's easy, but I had to put it in there. Was it A, Jade? Not everybody knows. B, Lisa Mena. C, Sophie Evans. Or D, Luna Shimada. Come on, guys. You know who invented this, right? It is indeed Lisa Mena. Yay, Lisa. And Lisa is responsible for this fantastic illusion that has been copied and used by female magicians all over the world. And it is great. I wish I could do it. Wouldn't that have been great if I'd had like an ace of hearts with a heart on it? Have to plan that for the future. Who inspired the entire spiritual movement? Now, this is a complicated one, so I'll start with Anna Eva Faye. Anna Eva Faye used mentalism, magic, and psychic spiritualism in her seances, but she did not invent the spiritualism movement. Lulu Hurst, the Georgia Wonder, used scientific methods to provide exhibitions of remarkable physical strength that were out of proportion with her willowy body. She also wrote an autobiography book that explained all of her principles. Now, Tiffany Allen, who's sitting right here, believes that not only did Lulu write the book, she actually published the book in 1897. Now, if you can imagine that, that would be probably almost impossible and a truly remarkable feat. But she did not inspire the movement. Phenomenon was the first high priestess of the oracles of Delphi. She invented hexameter poetic verse, and she used ventriloquism and vague predictions to predict the future. She also trained other women to be future oracles of Delphi, and they had a run of 1,000 years. I don't think anybody can beat that. Okay, so the correct answer, I think many of you know, is D, the Fox sisters. Those little brats. They really were. Who are credited with initiating and inspiring the entire spiritual movement. By snapping their toes, like you would snap your fingers, they attempted to scare their mother. And they convinced the most cynical of skeptics and non-believers that they were communicating with the spirits. Now, they literally changed the game, for without the Fox sisters, there would have been no Dunninger, no Kreskin, or no Uri Geller. So now we come to today and some other remarkable magicians, current magicians. I think most of you saw Ding Yang yesterday, and she is a remarkable dove performer. She's working now in a clinging cat suit, and she has literally rocked the magic community. However, if we go back 60 years, we will discover Celeste Evans. And Celeste Evans is credited to be the very first dove performer that was a female. Celeste also wore very clingy, beautifully cut, elegant gowns. And she performed completely in the round, often in nightclubs and stage shows. Celeste was Canadian, and she was a very, very skilled magician. She performed on USO tours all over the world, bringing magic to troops, military troops, under very, very extreme conditions. Okay, so here's another fun fact. I keep throwing them in at you. Who snuck into the magic circle? This is a fun one. Disguised as a man. Was it Faye Presto? Was it Celeste Evans? Or was it Tina Leonard? Any guesses? It was Celeste Evans. You are completely correct. And it was in the 1950s, and she snuck into the magic circle dressed as a junior magician, and she performed in the Magic Circle's club room. So that's kind of fun. Now remember, the Magic Circle didn't allow women into their association until 1991. So, Helen Coghlan created history when she won the third Foulis Trophy on Penn and Teller Foulis. Then, last year, she went on and she won a fourth trophy. And she's not done yet. She's going this year to try for an actual fifth trophy. And I cannot wait to see what she and her dad, Arthur Coghlan, create. They're just remarkable. So, who was the very first magic act ever to receive a golden buzzer in the audition rounds of America's Got Talent? Do you have any idea? It was last year. It is, indeed. It is Leah Kyle. Leah Kyle is the very first magician ever in 16 seasons of America's Got Talent to receive a golden buzzer in the audition rounds of America's Got Talent. Now, Leah has literally recreated an entire version of, or category of magic with her quick change. She has become a viral sensation. And to quote Penn Jillette, this is not a quick change act. This is a magic act. And I can't wait to see her perform later on in FISM. Something to look forward to. So all of us in this room, or many of us in this room, are inventors and creators. And it is incredibly important that you continue to do so, because you are the future of magic. Without inventors and creators to force forward, we're just going to stay stagnant. So please keep doing what you're doing. It's really, really, really important. I would be remiss if I didn't include the fabulous FISM females. From 1948 to 1988, there was a ladies' category at FISM. The only exception is in 1970, and that was Valerie Swadling, who chose to perform in general magic and who placed second. In 1988, the rules changed, and men and women competed equally on an equal ground after 1988. Now, who is notable or has made quite an impact with FISM? Well, I would say that would be Juliana Chen. Juliana Chen, yes. Yay, Juliana. Juliana Chen became the first magician of Asian heritage to win a FISM first. She also became the first female magician to win first in manipulation. Sita placed first in illusions. Now, we're in the middle of FISM, so I can't wait to see what magic milestones we're going to have as we move forward here. So it's really, really, really exciting to be here. And there's some brilliant magicians. I think that all the little trivia things and the information that I've been providing, I think that's all fun and good. But I think everybody in this room has at some point or time performed for a charity. You've performed at a hospital ward. You performed for a children's cancer ward. You have donated your time to a senior center and provided glowing smiles to the elderly. Perhaps some of you have performed on telethons or on charitable events. Raise your hands if you have performed in any of these things, because I think almost everybody in this room has most certainly done that. And probably you need a little exercise anyway, right? Okay. There are some remarkable women who are using magic for greater good. Anchal from India is bravely using her performance voice against the unjust treatment and practice of the dowry system that is still prevalent in many parts of India. In her touring show, she uses a cremation illusion to address and discourage an unfair tradition. On nationwide television, she was secured and shackled into an anti-dowry labeled box, and she narrowly escaped a raging bonfire. It was truly terrifying to watch. Now, there are parts of Africa to this day where people can be killed for performing magic. And yet, Lisa Mena continues to risk her life to go to some of these places to teach and educate, using magic for her and her Cause to Wonder charity. And she is the very first person to do that. There you go. Second to Jesus, according to Lisa. She's also the very first magician ever to present a brief about her findings through Cause to Wonder at the United Nations High Commission on Human Rights. Now, Lisa is lecturing tomorrow, so if you have the opportunity, please attend her lecture. I watched it this morning. It will move you, and what she's doing, her accomplishments are just wonderful. Now, there is an international first that's happening right now in France. And that is thanks to Alexandra Duvivier and her father, Dominique. They have received approval from the French government for Les Double Fonds in Paris. For the first time ever, magicians who graduate from the program and earn their magic certification diploma credentials will be entitled to all the programs and privileges the cultural arts are offered in France. This is massive, huh? Let's hope that this starts a trend with other countries as well. It's remarkable. It's true. Now, most of you know the Magic Castle, but did you know that since 1975 they have offered a junior member program for young magicians? Diana Zimmerman created the program and co-founded it with the legendary actor Cary Grant. Now, to this day, Diana continues to donate her time and expertise to the juniors and emerging talent. Over 3,000 magicians have participated in the program, and they have produced a slew of notable professional magicians, champions, and world champions. There's Diana right there. Lastly, Canada's Magic Hannah is a very, very respected registered charity. Second generation Julie Ng is the director at the helm of this massive charity. Julie is quite possibly the most talented, diversified, qualified, respected, and knowledgeable person I know in magic. She is a hands-on publisher, editor, photographer, administrator, charitable works coordinator, and more. Julie is like the perfect example of using magic as your foundation for greater good. Now, do all these women inspire you? Did they inspire you? Yeah, fantastic. It is, I'm just so grateful to all of the historians and artists who participated and shared their knowledge and their findings and suggestions and enthusiasm and helped with this talk. It certainly would never have occurred without their support. I am extremely humbled to be surrounded by such greatness, and I am truly thankful to Max Maven for this opportunity. Thank you, Max. Really, you are pretty remarkable. When I started this project, I had no idea the Pandora's box I was going to open. I've just scratched the surface, and I hope I've encouraged you and piqued your interest, and that I have actually proven that women have influenced magic, past and present. Let's correct historic omissions and accept that women have been and are an important part of magic's history. So the next time that, oh gosh, I've missed all of these important people. Let me just quickly go back so you can see them. These are all female magicians. So the next time somebody asks you, why aren't there more female magicians or women in magic? Say confidently, there are and there always have been. If this talk has inspired you, I have done my job. So let's finish with the quote that we started with. And life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.